all-night long wrestling podcast with the Enforcer.
I believe they're called enforcers, Gordon. I sell women's shoes.
And the Stallion.
Stallion, baby! I am not what you would call a handsome man.
I'll kick you in the nuts and you'll smile at me and like it.
All night long.
Welcome to yet another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. He is your host. He's the Stallion. I'm the Elmer Fudd to his Bugs Bunny. My name is the Enforcer. And I feel like we're living up to our nickname of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. As per, it's like 2 in the morning. It feels like.
Yeah, I'm going to be up till about 6 a.m. editing the show, posting the show, watching probably reruns of Fixer Upper on HGTV. I don't know why you find that to be humorous at my plight.
I'm literally dying for if ever we make it, I don't even want to say big and famous. I want to say below average successful and moderately comfortable financially.
That's all to achieve, but go ahead.
We need
setting the bar high.
What we would need is a blooper reel or outtakes, because safe to say the bulk of the enjoyment of this show is not in the actual show itself, judging by our viewers. It's more in the pre-show in which the Stallion and I just sit at the table and banter for 15 to 20 minutes of just pure anger and frustration. And what else would you say we talk about?
Well, it's not PG. We'll say that.
No, it's definitely not PG.
It's rated R, like your boy Xavier Woods, right?
You know what? You took me to a whale A town pretty fast. Waialae, I think.
Whale town.
I think it's a golf course.
San Diego.
I think it means. Never mind. So here we are. Listen, it's and that's it for another episode. No, I'm just kidding. Joe wants to wrap up as per. It's 10:30 at night. But listen, here's
our producer is telling us we don't have a producer. That's a lie.
It's Chance. It's not a producer. Yeah. So we're gonna give our predictions for this Sunday's Giant Balls of Fire.
It's great balls of fire.
Great yeah. There's nothing great about these balls. I'll tell you that much. The joke's right itself. We're going to talk about last weekend's New Japan Pro Wrestling California excursion for the first ever NJPW IWGP US champion. We're also going to talk a little bit about TNA Slammiversary, or as I like to call it, Slam 15.
I'm not sure what...
Son of a bitch. What's the name of it? Sorry. Just make a note for the producer to edit that in post.
I will. I'll have myself edit it in post.
Son of a... Something like that. GFW Slam 15. And we'll probably talk... That's really it, depending on how the show goes. And we're going to talk about next week's edition of the 5 Count, which the Stallion doesn't even know what it is yet.
Yeah, it's a shoot. I don't know what
That's a shoot. He doesn't know. I like to keep him on his toes.
All right.
So where do you want to start? We got we'll start with this Sunday.
Yes. Let's start with
Sacks of Fire.
Great Balls of Fire. The first ever edition of Great Balls of Fire is this Sunday. It's a Raw branded pay-per-view.
Probably the last ever.
It's presented by Rocket League, so I think it's
okay.
It's got to be good.
Before we get into that, have you played Rocket League?
I have played Rocket League.
Are you serious?
Sure.
You shill mark. Unbelievable. What? You actually downloaded Rocket League?
Like a year or whatever ago when it came out. It was like a free download on...
Is it still free?
I don't know about that. I know. I have not played it in a long time. But when it first came out, maybe like a year or two ago, it was a free download on I got PlayStation 4. And I played
Did you win that?
Did I win the PlayStation 4? I don't win anything. So, no. I purchased a PlayStation 4.
Okay.
And played Rocket League. One of the very few times that I've played games online, and with some folks from my previous employer, and played a little tag team Rocket League action.
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
You and people from your job played Rocket League together?
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Like, you have a really good job.
It wasn't at my job.
No, but like you
people from my job.
That's really cool that you guys have like that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
When I go to my job, I get spit in my face.
Yeah, I quit there, and I don't talk to any of them anymore. But, I mean, at the time, it was a good...
That's a shoot. We're shooting from the hip, cowboy.
It was a good time. So, presented by Rocket League.
Hold on, I kind of wasn't done with Rocket League. I just want to bring up something real quick.
Texas.
Do you remember Mutant League Hockey?
I do.
Is Rocket League anything like that?
Not really. I think it's more of a... it's kind of like a soccer type game, but it's with cars or trucks or things like that. So you kind of play in like an arena, and there's like it's like 2-on-2. You can do tag teams and stuff like that, and that's pretty much it. They have like I forget what it is, like 5-minute periods or something like that, and you just try to score more goals than the other team, and that's.
I'm gonna download that when I get home while you're wrapping this up in post.
Yeah, let me know how it is. I'm sure you'll get through a few games before I finish getting the show posted on the internet for everybody out there to hopefully listen to.
Okay, back to... Boy, we are miserable bastards tonight, huh? All right, Great Balls of Fire. As you were saying, it's a Raw-branded pay-per-view. Right now, we have 8 matches on the card. I'm not going to list each one individually. We'll list them as we're talking about the matches. Let's start with the pre-show.
Sounds reasonable.
Neville versus Akira Tozawa, part of the Titus brand, the Japanese expansion, for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. Neville is probably the second longest reigning champion on the show, and having this match on the pre-show is a slap in the face of all that is good in the world. Yeah. Slap right in Donald Trump's face. So the thing is about this match is there hasn't been too much build. It's only been, the last 2 or 3 weeks, maybe? Has it been longer? I just haven't been watching 205
I think
Live.
it's been more. It was more about Tozawa and Titus O'Neil trying to recruit him at first, and then once he did, getting him a cruiserweight title match. I think that's kind of how it, was pieced together.
Okay.
So they've had the interaction. I think the last couple of weeks, like you said, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of, I guess, depth or backstory to this. It's just the next challenger in line for Neville. He had beaten Aries about 3 months in a row, and then I think he beat TJP on an episode of 205 Live, and now he's moved on to Tozawa. So I don't think there's any reason to take the title off of Neville at this point. If you weren't going to put it on Aries during that feud, I certainly wouldn't take it off of Neville to put it on Tozawa here. So I would say that Neville will keep the championship yet again. Wait,
who was that other guy you mentioned?
Austin Aries.
Where's he?
A double
missing.
There were some interviews I read where he indicated he might be taking some time off to nurse some injuries and things like that. I don't know how true any of that is, but he has not been around very much since then.
No, and that's maybe that's why they didn't put the title on him. But I agree with you. I like Tozawa, and I think he's a great talent, but I also don't think he's the guy to take the title off of Neville, because Neville's had the title for so long now that when the title comes off of him, it should mean something. And I don't know if Tozawa is the right guy to do it, unless you have Titus. I still wouldn't do it. So I'm going to go ahead and say Neville keeps the title on this one.
Mm-hmm. So I guess let's go to the tag team title match. It is a 30-minute Iron Man match for the Raw tag team titles, and it's Cesaro and Sheamus defending against the Hardys. So it's just made an Iron Man match this past Monday on Raw.
I have no desire and no disrespect to anybody to see the Hardys in a 30-minute Iron Man match at this point of their career. Is that fair? Is that unfair?
It's okay.
I don't know. I don't have high hopes for this match, and I think Sheamus and Cesaro need to keep the titles. I'm also done caring about the broken thing. I think it's past its prime. It's lost its luster. The bloom has fallen off the rose, and any other quip you want to put there. think the Hardy Boys gimmick itself is a little bit stale, and I just think Sheamus and Cesaro need to keep the titles more than the Hardys need to win them. So I'm going to say Sheamus and Cesaro.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would keep it on Sheamus and Cesaro. I mean, I think they've done a nice job as a team, as they've kind of spent more and more time teaming over the last however many months it's been, probably since late last year. And I think the Hardy Boys thing, they don't really need the titles at this point. I would probably leave it on Cesaro and Sheamus. The only problem is, I guess, if you leave it on Cesaro and Sheamus, I don't know who their next challengers would be, if there's maybe as far as the babyface team would be concerned, because Enzo and Cass obviously have broken up, and the other teams on Raw are the Revival and Anderson and Gallows, and unless I'm forgetting somebody, I'm not sure who else is a good team to challenge them, so that'd be interesting to see what they might do with that. But I would still keep the titles on them. I wouldn't switch it back to the Hardys either.
I can't name another tag team on that show. I really can't.
Yeah, I there might be somebody that I'm missing that's obvious, but I don't think I am, because like New Day went over to SmackDown, and the Colognes went over to SmackDown, and I don't know if there's anybody. I'm sure there's probably, if there is somebody else on Raw, we're definitely forgetting. But those are the teams that I remember.
And that's bad if there's another tag team on the Raw that we're forgetting.
But Enzo and Cass split, and then the Anderson and Gallows and the Revival have been not really doing a whole lot.
And the Revival came in as heels, right?
Yeah,
they were heels. So I mean, you could do a Sheamus and Cesaro versus the Revival, but where have they been? So who really knows? But I don't know. 30 minutes is a long time for the Hardys to go in an Iron Man match on a WWE pay-per-view here. So without any kind of ladders or anything like that. So we'll see. The next match on the card, I'm going to call this one the Stallion Special. This is The Miz with Maurice, Bo Dallas, and Curtis Axel, the Miz-Tourage, against Dean Ambrose. I like what the Miz has been doing. He's been kind of poking the bear with Ambrose the last couple of weeks, and I swear to God, I did not mean. I swear to all of our listeners, I did not mean that with the bear thing. I promise you, I swear on anything.
You know how I feel about the dancing bear gimmick.
I think the dancing bear gimmick is money. I think it's a gimmick that's got some legs.
It's upsetting.
But this week on TV, Miz kind of buried Ambrose. He kind of said he used to be edgy and he used to be this, that, and the other thing, and now he's kind of a run-of-the-mill chump and it means nothing. And I think maybe Ambrose has to turn it on and go back to that whole more of a badass dude and even channel some of his early CZW roots. I want him to take a sickle to Bo Dallas's forehead and then use a weed whacker on Curtis Axel.
This is turning into a violent. Is there something you'd like to talk about, maybe, before we move on to the next?
No, I'm just saying, you're going to say Dean Ambrose.
You have people attacking each other with weed whackers.
Listen, that pales in comparison to what Johnny Moxley was doing before he came to WWE. So if he's got to stab or shoot somebody to get his point across, let him do it, man. You want to get the guy over? Or you want him to toil in mid-card obscurity? I want him to stab somebody.
Wow. This is dark. This has become a dark situation here. I'm not sure that, and I'd have to look it up. But I don't know if they're allowed to stab anybody on PG shows. I have to look up I don't know if there's like criteria.
Oh, you can make gangbang jokes on SmackDown, but you can't stab somebody?
Oh, okay. That's two different things, I think. But I'll look that up. That way on our next show, I can maybe give a breakdown of what's allowed on PG versus TV-14, TVMA, and whatever else there might be that's out there. I don't know where the stabbings, what category they fall under. So I'm thinking they're not PG. Regardless, I'm taking Miz to retain the title in this match. I feel like that's going to be the move. I don't think they should move it back to Ambrose. He had the belt for a while, and I think Miz winning it, it'd be nice to leave it on him, and maybe he can have a nice another run with it on Raw this time with the Miz-Tourage, and then I'm sure they'll come up with another challenger for him after Ambrose. And I think it'd also be better suited for Ambrose to move on to something else and some sort of fresh feud for him. So I think that'll be good for both guys.
Yeah, Miz should win.
Okay. Let's go on to Enzo Amore versus Big Cass. Obviously, we covered the split of those two guys a few weeks ago. and now they're facing off in their first one-on-one encounter on this pay-per-view. I can't imagine this is going to be
a good match.
Much of a match at all. Yeah, I wouldn't think it's going to... It shouldn't really last very long. I'd imagine that it'll be a dominating victory for Big Cass. If he goes 50-50 with Enzo for like 10 minutes, that's only going to damage him. I don't know if they do have any sort of hopes for him as far as a heel push is concerned. So I think
he's
that
4
Cass,
times the size of the kid.
Yeah, I think Cass will win this match in probably a very quick fashion.
I'm picking Enzo to win because I feel like they're going to do the whole surprise, roll up, count to 3, escape with the win that they've done a bajillion times, only to have Big Cass maybe, deservedly so win the feud and go on from there. But I just feel like they're going to put it on Enzo as a feel-good moment because he's literally had his ass handed to him like every week for the last 3 weeks. So
I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. We got Seth Rollins. Oh, you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, this is a shoot. I had no idea this match was on the card.
Oh, come on, bro.
I'm not being a Richard about myself. I'm just saying I didn't know that they officially made this match. Is all.
Oh, okay. It's Seth Rollins versus Bray Wyatt. These guys have been talking a lot on the promos, and I don't really know what they're talking about or what they're feuding about. But Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt are going to wrestle on Sunday, and I don't have any good reason to pick one guy or the other. I'm just going to say that Bray Wyatt will win, and the feud will continue into SummerSlam.
Yeah, I don't know. Bray Wyatt wins, and he's going to cut another promo in a desert. But hold on here. Looking at this card, everybody hold on.
I'm going to have to take that drop away from you, I think.
Breaking news. Is there no Finn Balor on this card?
There's no Finn Balor on this card. Also, no Drifter.
What kind of monkey... Is it after 10 o'clock? I can't curse.
It's 10:35.
There's no... Really? That's a shoot. There's no Finn Balor on this card.
Yeah,
who cares about the Drifter? Where did that come from?
Well, he's kind of feuding with the Drifter. What do you mean, who cares about the Drifter? I thought you enjoyed his style of music like I do.
Yeah, I'm big into folk music. I'm going to go to the Great South Bay Music Festival over there, and I'm going to listen to some people play the guitar.
Oh, okay. I think that's going to be good. Yeah, those guys are not on this card for whatever reason. It's a little surprising. They've kind of had a little bit of a budding feud going, so I don't know why they didn't put them on the pay-per-view. And maybe that'll be a late ad. I wouldn't think it would be, though. I think if they were going to have a match with Balor, they should have advertised it ahead of time. So I'm not sure why it didn't make the cut here, but he's not on the card again.
That's terrible. That sucks. Man, I can't believe you I don't know. Whatever. This sucks.
So the Women's Championship is up next. We've got Alexa Bliss defending against Sasha Banks. Banks won that gauntlet match on Raw about 2 weeks ago.
You know who the star of that gauntlet match was? Nia Jax, baby.
Bayley?
No.
Oh.
No. Nia Jax going 30 minutes plus. She's awesome. I was scared when people would wrestle her like a year ago. And now she's out there bumping, selling moves, not killing Charlotte. Let's go, Nia Jax. Big mark for the Jax. Dare I say it's a Jax attack.
It's impressive she wrestled 30 minutes, and that's a very long time, especially in the main event. She's wearing that cat suit, the Catwoman suit, or whatever it is she's got on. That's got to be uncomfortable wrestling. I feel like I'd sweat a lot in that.
I think it's called a leopard.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think that would probably cause me to just be a sweaty mess for 30 minutes. So impressive.
Are you insinuating Nia Jax is a sweaty mess?
I mean, she should be if she's wrestling in one of those things.
You know what? She
half
looked
an hour
with a new person each time. And on top of that, if you go to her Instagram, aside from the scandalous underwear shot that she put out today, there's a video of her flipping a tire. I sent it to Jimmy at work, and he's like, it looks like she's flipping a coin. She has like a full CrossFit tire, and she's literally chucking the thing. Nia Jax is a beast in the best way, and she deserves the title. Get it off, Alexa Bliss. Take it off.
Sasha Banks. You want Sasha Banks to win? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't. No. Yeah. No. I don't. There's a lot of caffeine in that drink, Joe.
I'm going to say that Alexa Bliss will retain the title. I'll say that she gets disqualified or counted out. So Banks will win the match. Bliss will keep the title, and then they will wrestle again. maybe next month.
That's a good idea. I don't think they've done that recently. I also agree with you. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And I think you're going to see some Nia Jax interference.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Are you excited for this match? In a shoot? Are you...
Am I excited for Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks?
Yeah.
No.
I appreciate your honesty. That's what people like about us here at the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We suck. No, I'm just kidding. Pop true. No, like I'll be honest with you. There are some matches on this card I'm looking forward to. This isn't one of them, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm not looking forward to this match. I kind of feel like Sasha is kind of just getting the runaround. She's in the main event picture. She's losing to like Emma clean, and then she's back in the main event picture after she won a match that she didn't look very good in. So Alexa Bliss is kind of doing her thing, as the heel champion. She's cutting really good promos, but in the ring, I don't know. They're not clicking.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I don't know. I don't want to get into like a crazy detail on it, but it seems like it feels like the whole direction of the women's division changed, and then as a result of that, several of the women involved were cooled off. Like, so they had the match at WrestleMania. It was a 4-way. And then I thought that the plan was going to be Bayley versus Sasha Banks, with Sasha eventually turning on Bayley, and they were kind of hinting at that on
Forgot about that. Yeah, you're
different
right.
episodes of Raw, and they seemed to change plans, and they put the title on Bliss, and Bayley essentially got buried, for lack of a better term, and now Bayley just does nothing but lose, and the whole Banks heel turn thing was kind of dropped, so now Banks is just kind of remaining as she was, and she kind of got cooled off, and now they're trying to heat her back up again. And like you said, Bliss has been doing a solid job with her character, as she did on SmackDown, and she's fine as the champion. But they just, now if they've put Banks back into the number one contender spot, which is fine. It's just that everything's kind of cooled off, and I think the direction of everything was messed with. And I don't know if they're doing something with Bliss and Nia Jax as far as like, are they friends or are they not? It's just not really what it was. If they would have stuck with the plan, and they should have just never had Bayley win the title at the Rumble. They should have had Bayley win it at WrestleMania and beat Charlotte. Kept it the whole summer. Had Banks turn on her around like this part during the summer, and then had Banks versus Bayley at SummerSlam in Brooklyn. I think that would have been the better way to go.
That took you what, 10 seconds to think of that?
But they didn't. They decided to change course for whatever reason, and now we have this. So
it's kind of like dropping a grenade into a well, and like every woman in the division is inside the grenade, and you just drop the grenade, and then they all go and scatter in different directions, and nothing makes sense. Nia Jax is probably one of the most heavily featured women in the division, and I don't think that's a stretch at all. And you're gonna have somebody her size. She's not a small girl by any means. Go 30 minutes in a gauntlet match. You have a lot of faith in her. You don't. That's Shawn Michaels Royal Rumble territory. That's like Rick Martel like Royal Rumble. Those are people that you trust to be able to do that and to carry that match. So they have a plan for her, and I guess maybe this is kind of one of those one-off pay-per-views where it's not important enough to waste a big match on. So maybe they're going to set something up for SummerSlam. I don't know, but this match really has no heat for me whatsoever, and because usually the way, I'm sorry to go off on a tangent here, but the way they book the gauntlet matches, usually it's the face that goes long in the gauntlet match, and then the heel comes in and gets the cheap win, when in actuality Sasha was the one that got the cheap submission win over.
What was cheap about it?
Not necessarily cheap, but it was the quick submission win, kind of dealing with a prone person in peril. It makes a lot more sense when the roles are reversed and the face is the one in there so long, and they're exhausted and they're tired and they're beating all these people, and then the heel comes in and then gets the quick win. So I don't think it did much for Sasha Banks to have this match based on that gauntlet match, but I think what you just said is true. Next, you want to talk about this one?
Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns in an ambulance match.
Strowman. That's what it says. Braun.
So
we'll go start doing that.
He returned.
Welcome to Braun.
He returned a few weeks ago from his injury, and obviously renewed his feud with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns had declared that he wanted to face the Universal Champion at SummerSlam, and Strowman returned with the ambulance. So they've been attacking each other the last couple weeks in ambulance-related stuff, and now they're having an ambulance match at the pay-per-view. This is an interesting match, I think, in that the winner is probably going to challenge for the Universal title at SummerSlam, and like we talked about last week, we don't know what the plans are for that anymore. They were going to hold off on the Reigns title match till Mania, but now there's rumors that it might have been moved up to SummerSlam. So I think depending on what they do there, it will depend on who wins this match. I'm going to stick with Strowman. I think that's the right thing for them to do. I would let Strowman win here. This should be him against Brock. I think is something that people would want to see, and I would have Strowman win this ambulance match on Sunday.
Interesting choice. Roman made his triumphant return this past Monday on Raw. They did I thought it was a cool segment where Strowman was throwing Titus. Was it Titus or was it Apollo Crews? I think he was throwing Titus in the ambulance back then in the Raw.
Cruz.
It was Crews.
I think it was Cruz.
He was throwing either one of those guys in the ambulance, threw him in the ambulance, and he tapped the ambulance in the back to kind of send it off, and the ambulance wasn't driving, and out pops Roman Reigns, who they were saying wasn't even going to make it to Sunday. And then I believe Braun got the upper hand, right? Roman came out, and then Roman speared him off of the... So yeah, Roman speared Braun off of the...
Stage.
Titantron area. That's still Titantron? Area. Stage. That works too. And they were selling how that couldn't even keep Braun down, going into the match. So I don't think they're going to stop the Roman Reigns machine anytime soon. So I'm saying Roman Reigns wins, even though I think Braun's the right choice.
Okay. So then the Universal Championship match is Brock Lesnar against Samoa Joe.
Going out on a limb here, buddy. Samoa Joe submits Brock Lesnar, and he's your new champion. Great balls of fire. We have a new champion. Do it. Join the dark side. Join me.
I mean, one thing I'll say, I guess, without going off topic or going down a rabbit hole here or anything, is that the feud's been pretty well done. I think most people would say that, at least from the people that I've read and reactions that I've had talking to different people about it. They've done a nice job with the feud. They've made out Joe to be a very viable threat to Brock, but I just think that they're going to stick with what their direction is, and Brock will keep the championship and either go on to face, I guess, if my predictions are correct, it would be Strowman or potentially Roman Reigns, depending on who wins that ambulance match. So I will say that Brock Lesnar keeps the championship on Sunday.
I think that's smart money. Me, on the other hand, I'm just going with my great balls of fire, and I think Samoa Joe is the right move. Going to shake up the division, and we'll go from there.
All right. Sounds good. Where would you like to go next?
Let's head to... Well, it was a busy weekend in the pro wrestling world, so I think what we should do is we should talk about the New Japan Pro Wrestling American G1 Tournament. But before we get there, I'm here to remind you every single week we are brought to you by the Damage 365 Radio Network.
Attention everyone, this is Allie and you're listening to Damage 365 Radio.
As a reminder, you could always reach us on Damage 365 Radio Network. You could find us on ProWrestling.com. This guy, he and I, your official podcast of ProWrestling.com. You can find us Twitter, Instagram, at AllNightLongWP, Facebook.com/AllNightLongWP, and iTunes. I want you to like us on there. I want you to follow us on there. I think they call it subscribe. I want you to rate us. I don't care what you rate us. Just give us the love on the iTunes. Every one follow, Joe gets to punch me in the face. So far that's 0 punches. So, just do the right thing. Now, New Japan Pro Wrestling made their North American debut with a show strictly their own this weekend. It was to crown the first ever IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion. Now, there were 18 matches over the 2 nights we're not going to talk about. all of them, because that would be so many 8-man and 10-man tag team matches that I would lose my mind. What stuck out to you? But we'll just do this. What stuck out to you on night one?
Well, I'll say that two things. So there's in terms of non-tournament stuff, the things that stuck out to me were obviously the tag title change. War Machine beat the Guerrillas of Destiny to win the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles back. They just lost it, I think, at Dominion, right? Is that the last paper? So they kind of traded it back and forth. So it was interesting that they did a title change at one of these shows. I think that makes sense to do. It's the first shows in America. So I think they had a decent match. It was a brawl. So they no DQ match. So I thought that was good. So that stuck out to me. And the other non-tournament thing, obviously, was the main event of the first night was Okada versus Cody. Only for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. ROH Championship was not on the line. The match itself was a good match, as you would expect with those guys. The things, I guess, about it were the teased dissension of Cody with Omega and the Bullet Club, and just the fact that, and I don't want to go off and get angry about things, but I don't really... Cody just won the ROH title 8 days before this show. This was the night one, so it was Saturday night last weekend. I don't think that's a good thing to do, is have a guy who just won the ROH World Championship lose cleanly literally a week into his title reign against the IWGP champion. If you're going to do champion versus champion, it should be built up, I think, for a very long time, put on a very important and widely watched show, and there needs to be something, they should have been either title versus title or something like that to make it seem really important. I think to have a title versus title match on this type of show with very little build after Cody just became the champion is a bit of a throwaway. Not something that I would have done. I would not have had Cody lose the match cleanly. I think that kind of weakens him and that championship, the Ring of Honor championship, which needs, I think, to be kind of built back up to what it was only maybe a year or two ago and before that. So that was a little bit disappointing for me as far as the night one stuff that stood out non-tournament was.
I agree with you. What I was reading was that this match was booked this way before the decision was made to have Cody win the Ring of Honor world title. Now, that is the kind of drawback when you have these guys not under exclusive contracts wrestling for different promotions. Some will live and some will die, figuratively speaking. I don't think it was the right time. I was rooting for Cody because I'm kind of a mark for Cody Rhodes, but if you're not going to put it on Omega, I don't think you put it on Cody. And Okada, when Okada loses, it means something. It means a lot. Or should I say when he loses the title? So they kind of booked themselves into a corner. Now, going forward, what's the next step for the Ring of Honor world title? I don't know. Are they going to pretend like the match with Okada never happened? I guess we'll see. I thought it was a good match, but I've said this before, and I think you and I have talked about it. Cody's just not... He's the level below, which it's not a knock on him. It's not a bad thing, but there's obviously something that separates him from being on the level of guys like Okada, Omega. I'd even put Naito up there, Tanahashi in New Japan ranks, and I can't put my finger on what it is. His style is still a little too WWE for my liking. He doesn't have really his own identity in the ring. He does like the drop down uppercut that Goldust does, and he does like the drop down kick that Ricochet does, and his finisher is still pretty weak to me. He just doesn't. The match was good. It was probably his best match outside. Actually, his best match I think I've ever seen. And they got the time to do so. They got about a half an hour, and that's what Okada does. Though he gets great matches out of every single person that he works with. So, Okada kept the title, and like you said, there was some dissension between Cody and Omega, talking about throwing in the towel and stuff like that, as I harken back to Okada and Omega. So, but now as far as the tournament matches go, Jay Lethal and Hangman Page, they did not have a very good match, and I think it was marred by a very obvious Jay Lethal botch of lethal injection.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I mean, of the four matches that were on the first night, Lethal and Page was kind of, it was whatever. It was an okay match. It was probably the weakest of the four, for sure. Sabre and Juice Robinson, I thought, had a pretty entertaining match. It was about 10 minutes long. Crowd was definitely super into it. So obviously Lethal advanced in the first one, and Zack Sabre advanced in that match. Ishii and Naito had a long match, 15-16 minutes, probably what you'd expect from those two guys. They've worked together several times before. Ishii won that match in a little bit of a surprise, I think. And then Omega beat Michael Elgin in about 22 and a half minutes. Again, those guys have had matches before. I think there was a little bit of a backstory where Omega had issues or trouble beating Elgin in the past, but he was able to win this match, and that match was also very good. So I think 3 of the 4 matches were highly entertaining as far as the first round goes. And you had Omega, Ishii, Sabre, and Lethal advancing to night 2.
Yeah, I agreed with everything you said. And kudos to Juice Robinson, because that guy, he was toiling in obscurity in NXT as CJ Parker, who you once...
Baywatch, bro.
Baywatch, yeah. You actually told me that was a Baywatch name, and sure enough it was.
True. Pam Anderson.
Classic. Good old Pammy A. Or as I called her, Mrs. Shawn Michaels for a little while.
There you go.
Good for him. So for him to be able to kind of reinvent himself in Japan and get over the way he has is really good. You know, it's really good to see. Big fan of him. All right, so night 2, stuff that was not tournament matches. No, I think the most out of everything on this show, we didn't talk about.
I'm not talking about
the one
Billy Gunn. No,
the badass.
I'm not. Nope.
One half the New Age Outlaws. No. If I have to hear how much bigger Billy Gunn is than everybody ever again, I'm gonna blow my brains out.
Oh, you know what? Actually, as we move into night 2, the one thing because when we talked about what we both thought of the show, because we watched the shows individually and then we convened and talked about what we thought of them. So the commentary on these nights was done by Jim Ross and Josh Barnett. The shows were aired on Access TV. Saturday night, actually, it was aired live on Access TV. Sunday night, it was on New Japan World, and then it'll be shown on Access TV tomorrow night on Friday. There was a lot of holes in the commentary. JR and Barnett were making some mistakes. They showed a little bit of a lack of familiarity with certain wrestlers, which is a little surprising, I know, because they do the Access TV show on a weekly basis.
They do the show every week, for God's sake.
So it was a little disappointing. Obviously, I'm a big fan of JR, but it was a little bit disappointing, some of the things that they were doing, some of the mistakes they were making, mixing up the Briscoes and not knowing who Evil and Bushi was. Like, it's stuff like that was kind of, it was a little bit Bush league.
Marty effing Sherrill.
Sherrill. Yeah,
Sherrill. And I gave JR a pass on it like 2 or 3 times because of his deep accent. But no, he said Skrull once, and then it was Sherrill. And then you got Josh Barnett just pancaking on whatever JR said, and then you got Josh Barnett with his completely, no accent, nothing, saying Marty Sherrill. Shut up! I was so mad at that. And I'm a fan of Josh Barnett in the UFC, and in Pride, I watch Josh Barnett, but there's no excuse for making the mistakes that he's making, because these guys do this show every single week. You're not going to go through like a run sheet beforehand and make sure you got the names right? And if New Japan, if they're bringing in Barnett and Jim Ross to give the product some legitimacy, you should have brought in Don Callis and Kevin Kelly, who kill it every single week. And they know who the Bushi is. And they know what their moves are. And it just makes me... And if Josh Barnett calls an insecurity a step over toe kick one more time, I'm going to step over toe kick his nuts, Joe. I was so sick and tired of hearing like the mistakes on the commentary. I understand it's a 4-hour show, and I'm even giving JR a little bit of a pass here. Giving JR a pass because he's had a rough go of it lately. The guy's under contract to do the Mae Young Classic now. Now I'm worried. I'm worried about the Mae Young Classic.
Do you think Lita would be better than Josh Barnett?
No, they're going to both suck, Joe. That's going to be a terrible commentary.
I feel like we're going into violent territory.
JR is going to think he's watching Leilani Kai wrestle.
He'll be having Dean Ambrose stab somebody again.
Listen,
I can't be dealing with that.
I might have to go there. Evil does bring out a sickle. But yeah, man, that commentary was rough. Even rougher for you was the intermission. I know you're a big fan of that.
Oh, my goodness. Intermission on a live wrestling show. That's what I need to see, is guys sitting around for 15 minutes, fans walking around in the arena.
Was there an intermission on day 2?
Yeah, I think there was, because as I was watching it on day 2, so admittedly, on the night 2, I didn't watch every single match. I watched all the tournament ones. I watched the Young Bucks matches, a couple matches that I skipped, some of the tag matches. And as I was zipping through, I was watching it on my computer, I got to a point where I was kind of skipping ahead, and there was a point where right in the middle of it,
it was
just the ring sitting there, people walking around for like 15 minutes. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, guys. 4.5-hour show, we had a 15-20 minute intermission, and it's on live TV. Let's
I hear you.
Let's improve on that.
I completely understand. I mean, what they could have done to me was have the intermission almost in the beginning, because they to their credit on night one they got right into the matches. But if you want to familiarize the North American public with what's going on, do it from the jump, and then if you want to do the intermission for the live crowd, that's fine. One of your 347 825 man tag matches you could have played during the intermission for the live crowd. It's not SummerSlam 91 anymore.
No,
okay?
You're right.
God, I love SummerSlam 91.
So I guess as far as non-tournament stuff on night 2, the Young Bucks beat Roppongi Vice for the IWGP, or to retain the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. They had a good match. These guys wrestled for many times together. They got over 20 minutes. The big story, I think, at the end was that Rocky Romero and Beretta split up as a team amicably. There was no turn or anything like that. I think Rocky just said that Beretta was going to go on into the heavyweight division.
He had said, sorry to interrupt, he had said before the match he promised Beretta if they didn't win the titles, he would let Beretta go his own way. He doesn't want to hold them back anymore, he said.
Right. So they did that. That split after the match. And then out of nowhere, Ricochet appeared and I guess returned to New Japan Wrestling and challenged the Young Bucks to a tag match with him and his trainer at some point in the future. So that seems to be the next feud for the Young Bucks, and Roppongi Vice split up. They had a good match. These guys wrestled several times before. It'll be the last time that it happens, most likely, unless for some reason Roppongi Vice gets back together. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I like this match. It was a long match. Speaking of the commentary, there was a triple jump somersault Meltzer driver to the floor. If you could wrap your head around that, go look online. There's GIFs everywhere. That Nick and Matt Jackson did, and the pathetic undersell by Josh Barnett, you would have thought it was a scoop slam, and then he buries like the connecting part of the move. He's like, he didn't really get all of it. For God's sake, the man just jumped from like the moon to hit the Meltzer driver, and you're not like, there was no, I don't know if he became so used to the spots that like you. But any kind of, from Michael Cole to JB to, I don't care who you are, even Byron Saxton, they're going to pop for the move. And I think in order to get talent over, you have to do that. You can't just be like, here's a move. It's like you got to sell the move. Now that I'm off my soapbox, I think it was a really good match. And, Roppongi Vice splitting up. I think Trent Beretta will do a lot of good things in the heavyweight division. He's a big dude. He's not small, and then I don't know if Rocky's going to retire. He kind of alluded to that. He's not a spring chicken, despite JR putting him over like he was one. So who knows what the future holds for Trent Beretta, but I'm sure they'll do right by him in New Japan.
Outside of that, there wasn't really too much else I thought newsworthy as far as non-tournament stuff. I know Tanahashi beat Billy Gunn. I don't know how I boycotted that match. But Tanahashi retained the title. The tournament matches at the semifinals and the finals. So it was Kenny Omega versus Jay Lethal in the semis, and Ishii versus Zack Sabre Jr. in the other semifinal match. Both matches got not a ton of time. Looks like Omega's match with Lethal was about 13 minutes, and Ishii's and Sabre was just under 12. There was the second and third matches on the card that night. Again, both matches solid. I thought that the Ishii-Sabre match was the better of the two, I would say, if I was having to make a choice on that. But both matches were fine. Omega and Ishii both advanced to the finals. Yep,
I agree with you on these. And Jay Lethal, I don't know, man. He's, I think what you said before off air, Jay Lethal as a face is just not really cutting the mustard. He seems like another just generic guy out there. He doesn't really have much of a direction, much of a gimmick, and his matches have been underwhelming. Him and Omega put on a decent match, but out of the two, the Ishii versus Sabre match was a lot better.
Yes, I'm with you on that. So that led to the finals.
Tanahashi versus Billy Gunn, you missed that.
Yep, I blew right by that. So it's Kenny Omega versus Tomohiro Ishii in the finals of the U.S. Championship Tournament. Main event of the show, and they gave this one a lot of time, so they had over a half an hour. Listen, it's I don't know how to describe it really. If you watch New Japan or if you've seen matches with these guys before, it's what you would expect from them. It's a lot of Ishii's a very strong style guy, right, with a lot of his moves and very stiff in the ring, and Omega's got his moveset, so you've seen like a lot of that stuff before. But They gave them a lot of time. They went over 30 minutes. It was a very good match, probably similar to the matches the night before with Ishii and Naito and Omega and Elgin, probably about that same level. And Omega won the match with the one-winged angel in 31-20 to win the inaugural US Heavyweight Championship tournament.
Now, Ishii's stiff in the ring, but not stiff like not a good worker, stiff more like by design.
No, yeah, I guess I just meant like I don't know, strong style type stuff, like his clotheslines, his headbutts, like those types of moves is what I mean. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, he's and the dude, he doesn't. JR said, and I'm going to cuss. I'm going to quote JR. He said, and I think it was night one. He's a look at Ishii. The man's a goddamn appliance, and it's very true because Ishii. You see this dude get vertically dropped on his neck like 10 times a match. I actually worry for the man's safety, but I guess he doesn't have a neck. And the story was Ishii was able to eat almost all of Omega's V-triggers, the knees, and all that stuff, and he took a brutal Snapdragon suplex off the apron on a table that didn't break, and he just slammed his head again. I mean, these two have had matches before, and Ishii beat Omega at the New Japan Cup, I believe. That was earlier this year. So the story of this tournament was, I guess, Omega overcoming the two people that have gotten important wins over him, which makes me wonder if he's going to go ahead and beat Okada in the G1 and get the third. But either way, I thought it was a really, really impressive debut for New Japan. Now, these you could rank them as a whole. What would you grade this weekend for New Japan?
I guess it's probably like about a B level for me.
Interesting. Okay, you went B. I went A minus.
A minus.
I went A minus because
that's interesting. How about that?
I'm listening. That's okay. I think when I look back at this weekend, I could watch Omega Ishii, the Bucks versus Roppongi Vice, Ishii Zack Sabre, Zack Sabre versus Juice, Ishii versus Naito, Elgin versus Omega, Rhodes versus Okada over and over and over and over again. I think those were, well, not Rhodes versus Okada, but the rest of them I could. And that's, I mean, 2 back-to-back nights, and you put 5 or 6 matches, or that are very, very highly regarded. I think they did a really good job in showing what they are. I mean, you got 2.5 hours of wrestling on a 4-hour show. That's not bad considering there's commercials and stuff like that for night 2. If you watch New Japan and you watch WWE, it's literally comparing apples to spaghetti. It's two different things, and that's not saying one is better than the other. It's what you could find more enjoyable for sure, but it's really not the same business. And I think that's why New Japan is coming over here. They're showing, with the success of all like the Young Bucks and Marty Scurll's stuff and Omega stuff and Hot Topic, there's more of a market over here than I think they even anticipated, which I can only hope means they'll bring over a New Japan World app, which will make my life a lot easier. But it seems like the real wrestling crowd is kind of clamoring for more wrestling, and that's the void that New Japan's going to fill. And Omega said himself, he said he thinks they could do a 20,000 seat arena, which is which would be insane. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thought is insane that they could do that.
You think so?
Yeah, no way.
You don't think they could do 20,000 seats?
How
they sold out 2,500 in an hour.
Okay.
I think.
So does Ring of Honor sells out Heimerstein Ballroom in like a day or whatever it is. It doesn't mean it's like 1,800 people or something like that. 20,000 people is a lot different than like 2,000 or 3,000 people.
I'm saying if you're going to put a tournament, you're going to put something like that. You're going to market it correctly. You're going to have more of a U.S. I guess marketing strategy. I'm not saying they're going to fill up the arena, but I think 2,000 people in that venue was a harsh underestimate. I think they could have went to a bigger arena for sure.
Maybe they could have got more people, but I don't think they would have gotten anywhere near 20,000 for an arena. There's just no way.
Well, I'm not saying they could have got 20,000 for arena, but I'm saying if you're going to do 2,000 or 20,000, I would go with the higher end. I think 2,000 people in that venue. First of all, I will give the crowd a lot of credit though, because they sat through 4 hours of wrestling, and they were as hyped for the main event as they were for the opening match on both nights. So that stands, to the crowd and I guess the pacing of the show. Even though they sat through your 30-minute intermission, they were still hyped. Kudos for them. I don't know if I could do it.
I guess it was earlier in the day for them, so.
Oh, that's true. It would be 3 hours, yeah, because it was in California.
So.
Are you excited to see the G1? Do you have any predictions?
Not really. I think it's just. I assume it'll be the same cast of characters that it's been the last couple of years, as far as the guys that'll be close or near the finals. It'll probably be some combination of Okada, Omega, Tanahashi, Naito, or Ishii. If it's somebody else outside of that, then maybe that'll be a change of pace. But
Saber.
Maybe. I don't know. But I think that'll be probably come down to those types of guys again. Obviously, they're gonna have another Okada Omega match just because they're in the same pool.
They're in the same bracket. Yeah.
So I'm sure that'll be something that people will be interested in seeing. But I don't know that I have. I think Naito is criminally underutilized at this point, just given how he's been. So I would like to see him win it, but I don't know that that's necessarily my prediction. I would like to see him if I was pulling for somebody.
Naito's in Block A, so I definitely think he'll be the winner of Block A. And either Omega or... I would love to see neither Omega nor Okada be the Block B champion. I think that'd be interesting. Now, who else is in that block? That's a good question, because I haven't looked at it. Maybe Bad Luck Fale. They're pretty good for that. Throwing a Fale victory in every single year. But so that was the New Japan weekend. They had the Lionsgate show, which is like the young guys, and I think that's important to help with the... for the future of New Japan. But before we wrap up here, we'll talk a little bit about Slammiversary, which you and I watched. We did down the $59.99 to watch Gary Barnage and D'Angelo Williams.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to go through every single match now because we're kind of.
I want to talk about Congo Kong.
We're running a little short on time, but
as I call him, Commander Nipples.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and very quickly just touch upon. I guess overall, I will say, I wasn't sure what to expect. Right, obviously,
nobody was.
Impact and formerly TNA did not have the best reputations for a while. There's a lot of different things going on with them, of course, that everybody knows about. But I would say that I was hoping that this card would turn out very well, and I think that it did for the most part. I think most of the matches, if not all of them, were entertaining in some capacity, whether it was from an in-ring perspective, a storyline perspective, or whatever shenanigans they pulled. Like obviously the Borash and Joe Park versus Matthews and Scott Steiner match was thought to be a train wreck, which
was
very
awesome.
well could have been, but they turned it into a nice kind of a Final Deletion style backstage thing where they had Shark Boy and Father James Mitchell came back and all that type of stuff, and then Josh Matthews ended up taking a spot on the tax, and Borash and Joe Park / Abyss ended up winning that match. The D'Angelo Williams match,
the MVP of the night, man.
D'Angelo and Moose beat Chris Adonis and Eli Drake. D'Angelo, however long he trained for, I don't know, but there was conflicting reports about that out there. So apparently he only trained for like 3 days, but very, very athletic and performance from him.
Wait, what? I didn't hear that.
Apparently Moose said he only trained for 3 days.
If D'Angelo Williams can do that after 3 days, there's no excuse for Lana. Sorry, I'm just saying.
So that match also I thought was very entertaining. Williams I thought did a really, really nice job, especially for him, just from a guy who's an athlete. Did really well with that. And then several other matches were entertaining. The 4-way tag match with wrestlers from different promotions, AAA, The Crash, Pro Wrestling Noah was a pretty entertaining spot fest to open the show. EC3 and James Storm had a nice strap match, I thought, pretty brutal. Sanjay Dutt beat Low-Key 2 out of 3 falls for the X Division title. Also entertaining. The Full Metal Mayhem with the Edwards versus the Richards. Very good. Sienna and Rosemary was slightly disappointing, I would say, the unification match for the women's title. And El Patron beat Lashley in the main event to unify the World Championships, which, again, was a solid match with those guys. So I thought up and down, the card was pretty good. I thought it was worth the $40 to pay for it. It was a nice, hopefully a turning point for Impact / GFW.
Nice with the pun.
There you go.
Nice.
To hopefully make it back on a better track going forward.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the show too. I thought the pacing was really good of the matches. Sienna and Rosemary was definitely disappointing. I expected a lot more from that. Dud and Loki had a really good match, which they know each other well enough. Big fan of the Full Metal Mayhem match, although it kind of felt like a lot shorter on time than it should have been. They might have been running long there. Anything else? You know what? The finish of the main event came off very flat to me, which is unfortunate because they were having a really good match, Patron and Lashley. And already we said I don't like this stupid hanging stomp spot as it is. So for that to be the finish out of nowhere kind of hurt it for me. But aside from a botch in the opening tag match, I thought there was maybe one misstep in a 15-minute just sprint. So this was definitely a good start for GF, whatever the hell it's called now. And Jeremy Borash and Abyss and Josh Matthews Scott Steiner match, we were literally in tears. Like, it was absolutely hilarious. Scott Steiner calling everybody a fat ass, the guy probably got paid like $1,000 for that. Like, give me that job. But no, I really I enjoyed the show. I was glad we watched it, and for me personally, I think it was a great weekend of professional wrestling, and there wasn't one WWE show, which stands to say that there's other stuff out there right now, and a lot of these companies are bringing their A game. So I'm hoping that GFW kind of continues the trend they're going, and I hope we see more from New Japan over here in America. What would you grade this show before we wrap up?
I would also give this a B. This is also a B show for me.
I would give this show a B as well. I think it was, nothing over the top, kind of beat down the doors, but consistently good the entire way down. And that's all you can really ask for. There's nothing I would be like, oh, except for KM and Congo Kong. I didn't see that.
So before we wrap up, you had teased something earlier about a 5 count for next week that I don't know anything about.
I did not. For next week, we've just completed the month of June, correct?
That is correct.
I'm not Socrates, but I believe that's halfway through a calendar year.
Socrates, yep.
So next week, the 5 count, I would like you to give me the 5 best matches of 2017 so far.
Okay.
Should be nice and easy because they all happen this weekend in New Japan.
At TNA?
Habum. No, not at TNA. Oh, there could be a couple in there. No, not TNA. But that's your homework for next week. And to all of our listeners, if you'd like to get in on the fun of the 5 count, at All Night Long WP on Twitter, at All Night Long WP on Instagram, Facebook.com/All Night Long WP, Damage 365 Radio, ProWrestling.com. There's a million ways to get to us. And if we decide your 5 count is better than ours, Joe is going to come to your house and wash your car.
Only if it's in Suffolk County. I don't go past that.
Only if it's in Patchogue, actually, in Suffolk County.
Actually, you have to bring a car to my house, and then I'll wash it. That's fine.
That's fine. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, he is the Stallion. I am the Enforcer, and we are tapping out.